We're back at it again with the bargain watches because those affordable ateliers have been busy beavering away building more cheap tickers. So here's 10 more brand new cheap watches to hit the market. Stay to the end to find out what YouTube thinks you should watch next. The importance of time when in command of an aircraft probably doesn't need stating. Rate of climb and descent, fuel usage, how long is too long to keep circling around Heathrow. All of these incredibly important aspects of aviation come down to time. It makes sense that as long as aircraft have been in the air, there's been a watchmaker making a buck out of it. Breitling started fitting chronographs to cockpits until they were small enough to wear on the wrist, but it was Hanhart who built the first official pilot's chronograph in the 1950s for the German Luftwaffe once they were allowed off the naughty step. From then on, were you even a military without one? And so if your unit did so much as fold a paper plane, it needed a custom pilot's chronograph. Affordable brand Praesidus has brought back one of those watches in the H75, a 70s design for an Italian helicopter squadron that was disbanded since the pilots couldn't talk to each other without letting go of the controls. It's not an unfamiliar arrangement, matching the Hoyer and Leonidas designs of the era, with a stark black timing bezel surrounding a stark black twin subdial display. All very standard, all very military. What perhaps you might not expect is that, for the average frontline soldier's monthly pay of just £200, the Praesidus could be yours. A mechanical quartz movement, mineral crystal and a period-appropriate smaller size of 38mm bring costs down, although 100 meters of water resistance is a nice additional surprise, making the H75 an absolutely essential item in the prepper's starter kit. I'm not sure I'm necessarily the army type. Until they start making goose-down hammocks and cashmere camouflage, I'll probably just cheer from back home. That's kind of my stance on bare-bones field watches too, that offer none of the frills but still cost all of the bills. Why can't they just make a nice field watch for nice fields? Fields that are less mortar craters and more moo cows. The kind a young Theresa May might enjoy. It seems young upstart Clemence has heard my call because the Munro, named after a rather bumpy part of Scotland and not the star of Some Like It Hot, has applied a level of luxurious excellence to the field watch format that I can very much get behind. It's the glamping of field watches. You're still very much in the midst of nature, but you don't have to poo in a bucket. The Munro's no Walter Mitty though. It went through basic training. There's 150 meters of water resistance to protect the Miyota 9039, so it'll pass the swim test. The boxed crystal is sapphire, so it'll take a beating down in the dirt. It can be read in the darkness of the dead of night thanks to a thick coating of grade A BGW9 luminous paint. It can do all those things, but it doesn't have to, and I won't make it. Better yet, why not perch on a split tailgate with a warm beverage to admire the Munro's 37.5mm, 9.25mm thick stainless steel case. Like most things, it definitely looks better without a layer of mud on it. There's a black dial, a white dial, and even bright yellow. If you're feeling extra adventurous, you could choose the multicolour ridgeline, which takes inspiration from the critical gradient avalanches occur at, which is coincidentally how steep is too steep not to spill brandy. For £499 or £575 on the bracelet, it sure beats cosplaying as homeless. With a flash new 03 series chronograph in the collection, it was beginning to look like the affordable days of Studio Underdog were soon to pass. Seagull was swapped with Swiss in an upmarket ascent for the industry's attainable acolyte, the setting of a pink and green sun on an era of watchmaking that was over all too soon. Psych! Despite the news that Seagull will be limiting supply to only a handful of customers, it turns out that Studio Underdog's archetypal chronograph collection will continue on for another generation. And it's not been sat on its hands since dishing out Moser-branded bucket hats, because the latest round of affordable fruitiness has been given a little bit of spit and polish since we last saw it. The thickness, for example, is now down from 13.6mm to 12.9, making it more wearable and comfortable. The mid-case profile has been adjusted to make it appear even slimmer. It's like wearing stripes, but for watches. The dial quality has been improved and now proudly boasts its coming together within the British Isles. But the award for most improved aspect of the 01 series goes to the thing that caused all the panic in the first place, the ST19 caliber. It's now got a black backdrop, so all those little parts that make the things do the stuff pop better. And there's a swan neck regulator too, for better regulation during production. There is, unfortunately, a downside. The price has had to go up. Despite staying level for 3 whole years, these new improvements have forced the price up a whopping £50. That's the cost of the first go around the cinema pick-a-mix before you go and put some back. That brings the total price to £550, a relief to many watch fans, I'm sure. When everything around you somehow always finds its way back to watches, perhaps it's time to take a little sit down and have a quiet think. For example, a view of the night sky would, for most, inspire thoughts of awe, majesty, and even loneliness in the presence of such an expansive space within which we are nothing but a speck in the interstellar milkman's eye. For Bauche, however, all they could think about was watches. So you're probably aware that NASA bought a cool new camera and posted it to space to take some pictures. This time they packed it with plenty of film, and so we're getting the most impressive views yet. And NASA's been all like, here's me with a dying star, here's me with an interstellar nursery, here's me with a black hole that's tearing its neighbouring galaxy apart atom by atom. I look terrible in that one. So on and so on. One of the earliest pictures was of a star-forming region called the Karina Nebula, and it's from this that Bauche stumbled upon the idea for a watch of the same name. With a dial split into 3 sections, mirroring the tumbling landscape of the nebula's edge, the Bauche Karina Nebula combines textured brass with meteorite and mother of pearl for a bird's eye view of a beach on Venus, before all the Germans come and put their towels down. An array of shade variations takes the Karina Nebula from a pop of colour to an intergalactic ball pit. Purples, blues, coppers and greens filling the 41mm steel case. Unfortunately, it seems Bauche has had its head in the cosmic dust clouds because despite a price of £700, it couldn't meet its Kickstarter target. Maybe if enough people put a rocket under it, Bauche might actually lift off. How would you best like your Nautilus homage? In forged carbon fibre impregnated with glowing green lume? Well, step right this way because by some sheer coincidence, that's exactly what Nuun's second collaboration with The Wrong Wrist is offering for £950. The 40mm case is wrought in marbled carbon strands, chopped, glued and squashed into place, a process that invites shower thoughts aplenty, such as, what if we put lume in the glue? What happens is a nighttime spectacle to rival the Northern Lights, if the Northern Lights were about 40mm across and stuck inside a forged carbon fibre case. Come day or night, the colour swirls through the carbon like green magma, fused in place and, despite looking like a piece of boiled candy, tasting of not very much at all. As Nuun is a Middle Eastern brand, with every watch assembled in Bahrain, the dial gets applied Arabic numerals, but like actual Arabic numerals. Yes, I know we call English numbers Arabic too, but I don't make the rules. All you need to know is that if you don't speak Arabic, you'll at least learn how to count to 12. Matching the green glowing pigment is a textured rubber strap from Deluxe, the perfect combination for testing the Sellita SW200 Inside's protection to 200 meters deep. Take it down that far, however, and you might find some fish getting overly familiar with your glowing wrist. Eminent scholar and intellect Carl Pilkington once described his eyes as being independent of his body, that what they saw was somehow done in isolation of his brain, as though his brain were simply an unrelated bystander in the whole affair. I had no idea what he was talking about until I saw the Echo Neutra Rivanera, and now I think I get it. I read the specification, computed the data, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Grade 5 titanium, less than 6mm thick, sapphire crystal. But then I look at the monochromatic lines, the matte finish case, and I wonder if I shouldn't start my own wrestling federation. I couldn't tell you why, but something about it is making my eyes feel real good. It feels completely out of the blue for Echo Neutra, whose other watches look far more normal. It's like they woke up one day and decided the only way to succeed was to deliberately try and fail. The Rivanera is tiny at 27mm across, needs hand winding less than every other day, has the water resistance of a teabag, and feels as substantial as a McDonald's paycheck. These are things market data will tell you people don't want, and yet somehow it works despite it. How do I know? My eyes tell me so. It's certainly not the cheapest at £1,264, but once again my eyes are telling me that's somehow too cheap. Careful additions of polished titanium in between the textured sections make the Rivanera so crispy it might brag about its air fryer. Perfectly aligned markers between printed white lines on the dial give the illusion of being engraved rather than applied. The whole thing feels like a token to unlock the trolleys at Harrods. What do your eyes think? It's all very well and good when fancy watch brands demonstrate age-old techniques to bring light and colour to their dials, but when those watches cost as much as a McDodo sandwich, for most people it's kind of moot. That's where Awake comes in, bringing a different kind of ancient technique to the dial of a watch that won't require the sale of organs from either you or your loved ones. This is the Son Mai, and you can tell by the way the letters have weird wiggly bits that we're onto something exotic. It's a Vietnamese gilding process from which emerges a texture from God's own yogurt lid, mottled and shiny. Then the traditional lacquering technique from which the watch gets its name is applied, sanded and polished to a glistening hue. All told, the entire process for each dial is reported to take even longer than the previous theoretical maximum of 36 hours. The result is colourful, glossy and mesmerising, whether in the red, green, blue or purple shades available. It's the flinke enamel we have at home, if home is the Vietnamese workshop of the Son Mai artisans. But there's more, because why let all that craftsmanship go to waste on just the daylight hours? That's right, beneath the slender elegant hands and markers lie strips of luminescent material, which backlight the time display once the sun goes down. I haven't seen a glow like this since Too Fast, Too Furious. And the price for this 39mm Laju Perret powered artifact? Scoop that ice back out the bath because it'll set you back just about £1,600. Seems like Dutch watchmaking outfit Grone got bored of having their order books full, so they've now come up with an affordable partner brand to let everyone else get a little taste of the action. It's simply called Grone, and this is the Manuel 1, Grone's first outing as a bargain brand. So if you've had your eyes on the Grönefeld Principia but lacked around £28,810, you'll be able to use the £1,790 you do have to get the Manuel 1 instead. As the name suggests, this is a Manuel winding watch, the Sellita SW210 wearing a solid caseback inscribed with the battle for Helm's Deep, or Gronefeld's hometown of Oldenzaal, I forget which. The emphasis, it seems, with the movement ushered into the basement like a ginger stepchild on the day of the palace ball, is on the dial, which is enshrouded by a 38.5 by 9mm thick stainless steel case. The textured centre in salmon is surrounded by a brushed and beveled ring, set with icicle-like markers cantilevering out towards the blued Principia style handset. The case itself, that too takes its cues from the Principia, along with the crown, which makes this something of a Principia light for less than 1/10 of the price. It's sure to be the biggest sellout since Metallica, and with just 388 pieces available, I'll be willing to bet the Grönefeld brothers will go back to twiddling their thumbs with their order books full in no time. Alternatively, you could just get the almost identical Delft Watchworks Oostpoort that came out a few years earlier for £650. After the much celebrated Model No. 1, Lorca are back at it with a shock release, the Model No. 2. Yes, the laws of consecutive numbering have determined that Lorca has advanced its formula from a GMT watch to a chronograph for this Sellita-powered, manually wound addition to the lineup. As per the Model No. 1, the £2,126 Model No. 2 looks familiar but different, taking design cues from lesser-known historic models to bring a sense of vintage class to the collection, without being yet another Daytona clone. And it feels good to have a warm, smooth No. 2 on the wrist. You can guarantee pretty much no one else will have the same. The smooth 37mm steel case, water resistant to 100 meters, is finished impeccably. thick, polished bevels dressing its flanks, blending in with the textured steel 120-click bezel that's unlike anything I've seen before. It's all one piece, no insert, with a ridged texture set beneath the numbers, spanning the dial like a little picket fence around a tiny lawn. Old Man Crown is waving his pusher fists at you to keep off. You'll be pleased to know the number 1's subtle golden hue has returned, available alongside an entirely black dial and a half-and-half combo, with the lightest hue giving the watch the impression of being entirely forged from a single piece of steel. Or a Daytona wrapped in tinfoil. After the success of the Darth collection, affordable watchmaker and Tintin character Charles Berret decided to go all in for its next piece, the Nebula. Produced in just 20 examples, this 40mm steel case became the home of a horological experiment that just might blow your mind. That's a mother-of-pearl dial and a hand-engraved movement for just £2,384. Now, I know what you're thinking. Where's my wallet? But before you go looking, I'll tell you now. They're all sold out. But there could be more. So if the idea of affordable artisanship gets your mainspring wound, then keep your eyes on Monsieur Berret. The dial is very cool and everything, with a black coating that keeps the mother of pearl at bay for the most part, only allowing it to truly express itself when the light tickles it just right. But it's the movement that's really got your attention, so I'll tell you a little bit more about that. It's an ETA 6498, a basic Swiss caliber, not particularly expensive. What it is a canvas for whatever watchmaking goodness you can think of. It's made an appearance all the way at the higher end with the identity shift of a witness relocation program, and here as a budget-friendly way to get you more of the good stuff. Hand engraved and plated in gold, the custom bridges exude the timeless elegance of Colin Firth's KitchenAid, set against an engine-turned main-plate that surrounds the escapement, as if to prove the work is done by the hands of a human and not by ChatGPT. Custom engraving was offered as an option. And remember, if you get the option to custom engrave your watch, it's important that you choose a cock and balls. It will be immediately valueless and your partner will forever look down upon you, but you will have my respect. And that's worth almost something. See you next time.